Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman Schley, and today we have got Jeanne Collins, the principal interior designer and founder of JerMar Designs. Jeanne transitioned from a corporate executive to pursue her passion in interior design, focusing on promoting wellness through beautiful home environments. Her unique approach combining financial acumen, leadership, and a keen eye for design has quickly established her as a leading voice in wellness and design, culminating in her memoir, 2 Feet In, which explores her personal journey and design philosophy. Hey, Jeanne, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rodman. It's so great to be here.
And I'm excited about today because we're going to be talking about a lot of things. And one of my favorite things to talk about is purpose and mindset. And I know that you are the perfect person to have on the show to talk about those two things.
I love to talk about both of those things. So yes, favorite topics.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of free spirits, a lot of people who are looking to form their own identities in life and really take charge of who they are and what they do. And they are always wondering, what are the first steps I need to do? Say I'm a little bit lost, or I'm trying to figure out where I want to go in life and how I want to be living. And for you, what are some of the first steps that you would tell people that they need to look at when they're really trying to identify that purpose?
Oh, that is such a good question. I found for myself, I hit a crossroad and I had to figure out, who was I and what was my purpose and what was I going to do for a living, quite honestly, right before I turned 50, because I had just gotten fired. And I approached it with help from a coach. So this wasn't just all my idea, from help from different coaches and from networking with people. I approached it by journaling a lot about what I wanted my life to look like and feel like. And so I didn't stick to like, what did I want my job to be or what did I want my career to be? It was trying to get out of that mindset of the box I was in as a VP of sales. And so I focused a lot on what did I want my days to be like? And I would sit down literally for like an hour and just free form, brainstorm, journal, bullet points, everything from what time I wanted to get up, when I wanted to work out, being available for my daughter, not having to necessarily, get dressed up in a nice outfit to go to a meeting, not having to travel, everything, what I wanted it to look like, and then also what I wanted it to feel like. And how did I want to feel at the end of the day? And how did I want to feel? And did I want to interact with people or did I not? Did I want to be at home or did I not? And so I started focusing on those things. And then the next thing I focused on were, what were the things about my last job that made me feel good? And interestingly enough, when I started to do that, I uncovered like, wow, I really liked mentoring and I really liked watching people grow. And I really liked feeling like I was helping improving people's lives. And then from there, I took it to, what do you like to do? What are your passions? What are your interests? What do you like to do? If you could do something, you didn't have to get paid. What would you do with yourself all day long? What would you do? And really thinking about like outside the box, not just what am I skilled at, but what do I like? What are my passions? And it was such a fun exercise because when you take yourself out of like, I have to make money, I have to make this much money, or I am in sales, or I am an accountant, when you take yourself out of those boxes and just let yourself be really open and let your mind open up, once you take those constraints out, it's amazing the things that you can come up with if you stop limiting yourself and your beliefs are what's limiting you.
Yeah, pen to paper is amazing in itself. I mean, a lot of people, we're in this era where people are not writing things down anymore. And it's amazing the power of just sitting down and just writing and expressing and trying to figure it out. I mean, those things, those same things that you write down on that piece of paper, when you look back after a year and go, oh boy, that one came to fruition. That one came to fruition. There's such a power in putting things to paper. But I'm curious too, when you went through your process of trying to figure things out, I mean, you said that you were fired, where you were let go. They terminated you. And a lot of people would take that as a very stressful event, but it sounds like it was a life altering. Were you doing things in life that really weren't aligned with your purpose and then you found purpose, or how did that transpire for you?
I think I was doing things in life that I was really good at. Wasn't my purpose by any means. So I had spent 22 years working for corporate America in advertising sales, and I ran a sales team, and I worked for a public company. So I always say I actually reported to Wall Street, because when you run a sales team and you work for a public company, you are only as good as your last quarter of earnings, and that's just the reality of it. And I was really good at it, and I took a lot of pride in it. However, it was kind of killing me, and it was physically killing me, emotionally killing me. The stress, I didn't realize the stress that type of job carries. I knew it was stressful, but I didn't realize it until I got fired. And when I got fired, I say to people, it's a roller coaster of emotions, because part of it is anger and frustration, and how dare they do that to me, and the victim complex, and I deserve better, and they don't value me, and all of those things. And then part of it is total joy by people reaching out to say how much I had touched their lives. I mean, I'd been there for 11 years. And then part of it is sadness, because some people don't reach out at all. And then that's really sad. And then there's fear, because it's, oh my goodness, I'm a single parent and living in a very expensive town with a really big mortgage. And this was right before COVID and the lockdown. I was like, what am I going to do to make money to pay my mortgage? So you go through every emotion out there. And I think what helped me was allowing myself to go through those emotions. And sometimes I would be crying, and then other times I would be laughing. But because of my mindset, I was really able to just say, okay, now is the time to take a breath, really think differently, and challenge myself to find a better way, because I'd already worked for 22 years. I'd had so much success. I had another 20 years of working left in me. I knew that. And so if I was going to do something else for 20 years, my attitude was, I want to love it. I want to be one of those people that says, I love what I do every day. And how do I figure out how to do that? And if I love it, having enough faith and trust in myself that if I love it, I'm going to jump all into it, and I'm going to be successful at it. And so it was, let's find out what I love. And it's like when you start to talk about things you love, like you can see yourself like light up, and like everyone was like, oh my goodness, like you get bigger. And I was like, I do. And I was like, imagine if that's what I did for work. Like just imagine. And that was such a foreign concept, because corporate America was not like that. It just wasn't. And I had a good career, but it wasn't like purposeful and like, wow. So that journey was focusing on, how do you get to the wow? How do you get to the excitement, underlying deep-rooted excitement in life?
Do you think that if you weren't terminated, if that position that you were in was not terminated, would you still be there, or would the pain been enough in your heart knowing that you weren't aligned that you would have been able to move on anyway? I'm always curious, because so many people are sitting in those jobs that they don't want to be working, getting up and doing things they don't want to be doing, but they just can't figure out a way to break out or to break free from it. You had the blessing that came to you that said, listen, you're done. And then you could go in and do the work.
Right.
But what if that didn't happen? Would you still be sitting there?
I wouldn't still be sitting there. However, and this is one of the reasons that I wrote my book and then I talk about my story, because I would not have quit as soon as I should have quit. And I think if I had met someone like me during that journey, maybe a year prior to when I got fired, I would have had more tools and been more equipped to have done the work beforehand to really figure out what my purpose and my passion was. So that I then, when I did quit, I would have felt really comfortable about it. But at the time, I didn't have anybody to inspire me to say, like, look, there is another way. And that is one of the reasons that I wrote my book. It's one of the reasons that I get on podcasts like yours, because I am no different from anyone else who was so afraid of not having the paycheck that I didn't want to take the steps. But if someone had shown me and taught me different things, I then would have eventually done it on my own. And so I want to help people that haven't done it yet and are kind of on the fence about it, to help them see how they too can get there.
You're best set up in life to serve the person that you once were, right? And so for you to have experienced what you experienced, just like my experiences or anybody's experiences that we've gone through, it is a tragedy when you don't go back and help people through those same set of issues or thoughts or patterns and help them move on to the levels that we know that we can all be at, but sometimes don't know how to get there. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you're out there teaching and inspiring and showing people the way. And I know you said you had hit 50. I myself am 54. And, when I got to that same point in my life, I felt like I was doing a lot of things that I enjoyed, but I wasn't truly aligned, and and you can feel that pain. I mean, that pain in your heart when you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing or that you weren't meant to be doing.
Right.
And, for me, it's always been about solving for regret. How can I help people so they get to the end of that life and they're not sitting on that deathbed, looking back and going, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have tried that. I wish I would have been more aligned with what I wanted to be. And that sounds exactly what you're doing too, trying to help
Exactly.
people understand that life is short and that there is so much more out there.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I say to people after I lost my job, and you read about this a lot. People will say, like, if people ask you, what do you do or who are you? Most of us, our first response is related to our job title. And that's just the truth, because we spend most of our time doing. And I was no different. I defined myself, as being a single mom, because I felt that was way more important to me, and being a vice president of sales. And after I lost my job, part of my journaling was, what are you going to put on your tombstone? What is your purpose? Who are you? How do you want to be remembered? And I was like, it sure isn't going to be as a vice president of sales. I can tell you that. So if that's not it, well, then what is it? And when you start to really think about, like, what do I want my legacy to be? What do I want my mark to be here? What do I want to be known for? Then you start thinking in a much bigger space. And then you can really do great things when you start to think in that space, because we all have the capacity to be that great.
100%. And I also think about, being in our 50s, right? I mean, when I was young,
we're on
I
the
used to think
backside
50s
now.
was so old. I was like, oh my gosh. And now maybe it's not so old because I am in it. And it's right with
I
me
don't
every
think it's
single
that
day.
because I'm in it. I don't think so.
But I don't think it's, it's one of those things too, is it's never too late to find your purpose. It's never too late to move into what you should be doing. People who get into their 50s or get into their 60s or get into their 70s, it doesn't matter. As long as your heart's there and your heart wants it, you should move into it regardless of where you're at in your growth, regardless of how old you are.
Agreed. Because until you're dead, you can keep learning, you can keep doing, you can keep growing, you can keep meeting new people, you can keep giving back. Until then, you have a really long runway, and you just don't know how long your runway is. So, but it could be a lot longer than you might think it is today. So why not go for it?
Yeah. And there's so many studies out there too that talk about how if you lack purpose, you don't live as long. You have a much more fulfilling, longer life by being aligned with that purpose as you're moving forward. And so that's why, the statistics are staggering to me, because the statistics say that only 5% are actually living a life based on their purpose. Only 10% even know what it is.
Right.
That means there's 90% of the people in the world who are sitting there getting up and not knowing what they should be doing, not knowing what's authentic and real for them, and getting up and doing this job that they don't want to be doing. And how can we help those people? That's the question I ask every day. How can I help those people realize how short life is and how many things are out there for them that they don't even know about yet? What do you tell those folks? I mean, what is step one for them when they're sitting there going, I know that journaling sounds great and all that. That's perfect. But these people they feel handcuffed. They feel trapped.
Yeah.
How do you, not by getting fired? I mean, that's the way you had. That was the blessing for you, right? That was a true blessing. But what about the person who's not there, not risking getting fired? How do they trigger themselves into a place where they can really make change for themselves?
I would find a hobby. So it's like, if you feel like you can't make those changes in your career, in your professional life, for whatever reasons, find a hobby and commit to yourself that you're going to give you a certain amount of time every week that you dedicate to that hobby. Because I think one of the problems is that people who are so stuck like that, they don't even know what it feels like to be excited and to be passionate and to be energized and to be grateful about the opportunity to do something. Because if you are living a life with purpose, you also have a great sense of gratitude. And having gratitude has been shown to help you live longer, right? So I think if people haven't been able to even tap into what that feeling is, it might be really hard. But then it's like, okay, what do you like? Is it cars? Is it food? Is it photography? What is it? And you don't even have to spend a lot of money. It could be, I like photography. okay, let's go find some museums, go find some galleries that have photography. Just start. You can find free things that you can do in the town that you live in that relate to that. You can find an online course for it. You can go buy a camera on eBay. There are so many things that you could do to take a baby step to spend time in something that you're passionate about. And then when you start to feel what it feels like to be energized and excited, that is what it is like to live with purpose and to be spending your time on something that is purpose driven, is that same feeling and emotion and excitement of and also wanting to share it with others as well. So that would be my place to start if you're not willing to make the leap with your job. And that's okay, because it might not be the right time for many different factors, but you can still find ways to start to eke that in. And then as you eke it in, just be open to wherever that's going to go.
I tell people too, they don't necessarily need to be an entrepreneur to go build a business around what they want to be doing to be aligned with their purpose. I mean, there's so many people that have so much to offer. And I always use the example of, if I'm passionate about curing cancer, I'm probably not going to get up and build a lab. And, I'm probably going to go find a place that's got good funding that I can really utilize my skills and I can really be great at that. But the whole thing about it, though, is the alignment.
Right.
Once you start to get the alignment, once you start to figure out, but you can't even get the alignment until you've identified it, until you sit down, like you said, and go, okay, great. I want to be aligned with my purpose, but here's what I love. Here's what I love doing, putting that pen to paper, and then starting to bring it into reality. I absolutely love that. So.
Yeah. And don't put so much pressure on yourself for figuring it out. Because your purpose also might be something that's in an evolution. So, just being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean that's your purpose. So it's like, just be open to where it's going and starting with your first passions. That will then lead you down a path towards finding things that you can feel purpose. And you can also have multiple purposes too. Your purpose can ebb and flow and evolve at different times based on different stages in your life and different things that happen to you. So it's just being open to understanding what that is. I think a lot of times people put so much pressure on the word purpose, and I have to find my purpose, that they overcomplicate it.
Yeah, 100% they do. And, at the same time, I think you hit it right on the head where you're talking about how you evolve, right? There are things that I thought were really aligned with what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. Come to find out maybe a year later, no, maybe this isn't where I want to put my time, right? Or maybe this isn't what I thought it was, but that's okay, right? Because if you didn't try, you won't know. And that's the big thing, is if you have it in your brain, if you have it in your heart, if you're sitting there thinking, I need to do this, and you don't try it, and then you get to that end of that life or that deathbed situation, you're going to look back and go, I wish I would have tried that.
Right. And then that gets back to the regret that you were talking about. Nothing's worse.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that can happen is not looking at like the worst thing that can happen is I could fail. The worst thing that can happen is that you learn something and it takes you down a different path. That's it.
Yeah. So Jeanne, tell me a little bit about your book.
My book. So I wrote a memoir, and it's about my life, and it is called 2 Feet In: Lessons from an All-In Life. And it is, like I said, it is a memoir. It kind of reads like a cross between a self-help, a business book, and a romance novel all at the same time. And I go through the phases of my life, and the phases of my life I equate to the analogy of building a house, since I'm an interior designer. And so you start with your foundations, which are your earlier years, and then you have your framing and your finishing and your design work. And so it's broken into 4 sections. And throughout that, I share very vulnerably the stories of my life, the things that I've learned, the roles that mindset and wellness and health have played. I've changed careers multiple times. I've now started 2 different businesses. I've been divorced twice. I've been a single parent for 17 years. So there's a lot in there, and I've learned a lot. And I've been told that my stories are pretty inspiring, and that a lot of people can relate to my stories in different capacities throughout their times of their lives. And so I think, like we said in the beginning, if someone had shared a story like mine with me back before I got fired, I think I would have been more inspired to take inspired action about my life and about my situation and start to think differently. And so my goal in writing it is to help people feel inspired to take action, and by giving them ideas and resources and tips and tricks and things to try, and becoming the designer of your own life might be just making one small change, such as, finding more time to meditate or journal or read or say yes to yourself and say no to something else, and making yourself a priority. It could be that simple and that small of a baby step as a place to start, so that we can feel like we're more empowered to be living our best lives.
There's so much power in the written word. I love books, and
Me too.
it's kind of an obligation. I feel like in life, if we've got something in us that we want to share with others, write that book, get that out on paper, help somebody, because you never know who's going to be on the other end of that book reading, who needs to hear your experience, your words. And
Right.
sometimes it might just be that book that gets that person to move and go, okay, yeah, I do need these changes. So I love the fact that you've got that book out. And I would encourage people, of course, to go out and read that, because it sounds like a beautiful book.
Thank you. It is. I've gotten great feedback from the book, and I'm happy that I was able to share my story. And like you said, when I wrote it when I wrote it in the very beginning, I was like, listen, if I help one person change their life and find a greater sense of inner peace and a greater, happier life, then I will have accomplished my goal in writing it.
How was your mindset when you came out of, firing could be very traumatic, and firing is a strong word, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it's one of those that
Rejection at a very
yeah,
firm one.
yeah. And so you're
Yeah.
coming out of there, you're probably feeling, like you said, that rejection and such, but well, how was your mindset? And then how were you able to take that and flip that on its side, and be able to move forward?
Yeah. So, there was a lot of, in the beginning, there was a lot of negative emotion around it. But I am naturally a pretty positive person. And so I have this, what I call the 24-hour rule. And I applied this to the people who work for me. I apply it to my daughter, and I apply it to my own life, which is, if something happens to me, I give myself 24 hours to wallow and complain and bitch and moan. And then after 24 hours, we just have to move on. Because in corporate America, there's so much politics. Stuff happens all the time. And I could spend every day just in knots or in dialogue with people complaining about things that happen, especially in a sales organization. So I always said the 24-hour rule. You can complain for 24 hours. I'm here for you. After that, we have to move on. And so I applied something similar to that situation for myself. And it was more than 24 hours, but in every day, if I had a call where I just felt like I was just complaining about the situation, I was like, okay, that's it. No more of that today. Like, the rest of the day has to be focused on figuring out, you've been given an opportunity, and what now? And as soon as I started to figure out the what now part of it, because that's really scary, but as soon as I figured out I want to start an interior design firm, I jumped 2 feet in, like my book says. But that also so energized me that I so quickly had a mindset of excitement about all these things I was going to learn. And it was terrifying. I knew nothing about starting a business. I knew nothing. What's an LLC versus an S Corp versus a C
Mhm.
Corp? I knew nothing. Plus, I needed to go get a degree in interior design because that's not my background. But the act of taking steps every day towards figuring that out was energizing and exciting. And I was learning, and every day I was making baby steps forward. So that helped my mindset stay in a positive place and squash down the ability to be like, woe is me. Plus, making myself walk the walk and talk the talk of the 24-hour rule, and be like, okay, it wasn't fair. It doesn't feel great, but this is it. And so we have to figure out now what, and stop complaining about it, because these are the cards. Here we are. So
And
figure it out.
that's a big jump. To go from where you were in sales over to interior design. So
Yeah.
how long did that take you? What was certainly, like you said, you had to go get some education on it. How did you even come to figure out that that's what you wanted to do? What were the things that went through your brain?
Yeah, because that was my hobby. That was my passion, among other
Mm,
things. But that was my passion. And that was if you could do something and you didn't have to make money, what would it be? And I was
mm.
like, oh, play with fabrics and wallpapers. I would be so happy if I could do that all day long. And I spent such a little amount of my time actually doing that. That's the joke of it. But um, and I just thought that would make me so happy. Or designing kitchens. I love to cook. I find kitchens so exciting. Um, and now I can't stand designing kitchens too. So that's why it's like, you never know where it's going to go. It's one of my
Mhm.
least favorite things to design, but I'm good at it because I like cooking. So I got fired in January, the very beginning of January. And by the end of February, I had already incorporated as an LLC, and I had
Oh my
already
gosh.
enrolled in one of 2 programs. And my business launched in May. and I wasn't done with school yet, but I launched my business in May. And I launched my business, and I share this story because I've been told this is a helpful one. I launched my business in May, and I was building my own website, and I already had a name and everything. And I was like, I need content for my website. I'm an interior designer. Like, everything about an interior designer's website is about, pretty homes, and I can't use other people's homes on my website. So I had my own house, but that's different. So I posted we have a local Facebook moms group, has about 3,000 moms on it. It's a very active Facebook moms group. And so I posted on the moms group that I was starting a new business as an interior designer, and I was looking for work for my portfolio for my website. And I would design for free. My time would be free. I would charge a markup on everything I bought, so I'd be making some money. But if it took me, 50 hours to design one thing for you, that's all on me. And if I design it and you don't like it, that's still on me. And I posted it, and I thought, maybe I'll hear from a couple people over the next week. And within 10 minutes, I had heard from 35 moms looking for help.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you knew it. So you knew
35
you were doing
moms.
the right thing.
And one of those moms ended up being a full living room. And so that was my first really big project. And we did almost all of it virtually because it was COVID. And so it just as soon as I started getting work, then I got more work. And then, I eventually very quickly was able to build up a portfolio and a website, and it just has kept going since then.
Sometimes we can aimlessly drift through our life, not really sure how to break the patterns and live the life that you've always dreamed of. I get it. I have been there, so caught up in chasing opportunities until I found myself in a life that felt foreign to me. It took me years to unwind the messy web to get back to what I've been put on this planet to do. And let me tell you this, purpose doesn't have to feel out of arm's reach. And I've designed a plan for you to do a little bit each day over the next 30 days in a challenge that I call the Outlier 30. It's specifically designed to help you find or create more clarity around your purpose. So if you're feeling lost and you want to finally turn things around and live that life that you were destined to create, sign up right now. It's free. You have absolutely nothing to lose and the whole world to gain. Visit gorodman.com/outlier30 today. Do you think that if you would not have been terminated from that position, do you think that this would have been something you would have brought in as a side hustle and then eventually moved it out? Or do you think it would have been just sitting there on the back burner?
I think it would have been sitting there on the back burner because it was a passion, but because I was forced into that crossroad. And so it goes back to your question about mindset. So I think because I had this mindset shift of I'm turning 50, this is pivotal. I'm turning 50. And if we have 15 to 20 years left of work, and I just did 22 in that career, what are you going to do with yourself? And I had never looked at it that way. I had always just kept looking at my job as this is what I do, and I'm not really happy here. And eventually a better opportunity will come up, or the company will get sold, and then I'll see what happens when they get sold. And it was because I was forced to have that crossroad that I changed my mindset. And when I changed my mindset around, I could build a whole nother career. Wow. Okay. Then it made the finance part of it a lot less for me and a lot less scary, because when I was able to say, look how successful you've been in the last 22 years, imagine what you could do with the next 20. Yeah. And then once I started thinking that way, then that opened my mind to maybe you should become an entrepreneur. Maybe you should have your own business, and maybe you should think of other ways to make a living, because my mindset had changed on the runway. The mindset around the runway had changed.
It's funny because, a lot of what you're saying really resonates with me, because you're talking a lot about how I felt. I felt fear. I felt some anger. I felt some, we've all got these bundled up feelings in our bodies, right? That keep us from doing things. Fear, right? Fear's a prime example of why people don't go out and do the things they want to be doing, because they're afraid. They're afraid they're not going to have the stability. They're afraid they're not going to be successful at it. They're afraid. But we've got all these emotions tied up into everything that we do. But once you move forward and lean into a lot of these things, we find out a lot of these emotions, they're not valid. They're not true. They don't really resonate with how you should be feeling about them. And it sounds like you went through something very similar to that.
I did. And once I had to really understand, and even just some of it is just acknowledging, I am afraid because I don't know. But acknowledging that you don't know is not a weakness. And one of the things I learned when I started my business was one of the most helpful things actually that I did when I started my business, other than, marketing it through the Facebook Moms group, was asking for help, and was feeling vulnerable enough to reach out to vendors and reach out to other designers and reach out to people in the industry and to network and say, hey, I'm starting my own business. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, that's it. That doesn't make me a bad designer. But running a business, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand the backside of interior design. I don't understand the business side. I don't understand purchase orders. I didn't even know what a purchase order was. And to think like I'm going to be an entrepreneur and not know what a purchase order is, I had no idea. But I think admitting that you don't know and then asking people for help, I was blown away by how helpful people were. And they were willing to give of their time, their knowledge, their resources, all for free, just to help me. Because people innately want to help other people is really it, especially if you're genuine and you're kind and I bought you a cup of coffee, Yeah. And so admitting that you don't know, you don't have to have all the answers, admitting that you don't know and being willing to say, I don't know how this works. I don't know how to do this. I don't know if this is right. Would you mind helping me? Or could I have 15 minutes of your time? And those 15 minutes turned into hours of people's time helping me. And I'm so grateful for that. And I try to do the same thing and give back to other people that are starting interior design businesses. I always offer up my time to help them with the logistics of what they're doing, because we're all just here to live happier lives. So why not help each other?
Yeah, I always tell people too, if you want to really grow and really expand who you are and what you do, check the ego at the door. First thing you gotta do is just check that ego at the door, because you know what? That's that one thing is the second that you think you know everything, you're going to stop growing. The second that you can acknowledge it's okay to not know everything. How in the world could you possibly know everything anyway? Like you said, knew the interior design. I knew I was going to be great at it, but I didn't quite know the business side of this yet. But that's where you put the ego at the door and go, man, I'm going to get really good people into my life that are going to help me with this, that can explain things to me, that I can learn from, that can mentor me. And people do, like you said, they love to mentor you. I mean, people, especially entrepreneurs. I feel like entrepreneurs are that type of person who's like, let me show you. Come on, let's go.
Right, exactly. They do, really. But it's a gift though, because one of the other things I say to people now that I've started on this journey, and I do this every year in January, is I write down all of the people that have come into my life that weren't there the year before, and the value that they've given to my life, and the number of people that I have met after making this major life change, and the value that they've brought to my life, just personally, professionally, with my growth, my health, every facet of my life. It is mind-blowing when you look at it. And I think back to myself and I say, you know what, if I was still in that corporate job, I would have never met any of these people. And they are the people who have made me who I am today in this current environment. And I feel so blessed and so fortunate to have met all of these incredible, incredible people, because entrepreneurs are just by nature incredibly interesting humans. They really are. They really are. Like, I love hanging out with entrepreneurs. I love designing for entrepreneurs. Like, it's really my favorite. Those are my favorite clients, are entrepreneurs to design for. So I think that's the other way people, like, you flip the mindset around fear, and it's like, yeah, it's scary. But on the flip side of that, wow, who could I meet? Where could I go? What places could I have gone to? What experiences could I have that I can't even imagine now? And then forcing yourself to reflect back a year later on what those are. And then that keeps you going as you keep going forward.
And then, Jeanne, the next thing will be is then you're going to start feeding back into the next person. And that's the great thing about when you are fed into by other people, again, because you've dropped that ego, you've started to take on the information, you're meeting these incredible people who are just filling you up. Those are the people who then understand that now I kind of owe it to the cycle to go back down and help that next person who's sitting there going, I'm not sure how to do this. I'm not sure what I should be doing. And you're going to be that mentor. So we always have that teacher-student role throughout our entire life.
Right.
And it's really important to know which hat to put on. Am I teacher today or am I student?
Right. Exactly. And you can be both, but just in different situations.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
What do you think was one of the biggest challenges? You talked a little bit about like the different corporate styles, you know, the S Corps and the C Corps and the LLCs. But what do you feel like was your biggest challenge in understanding that space, that entrepreneurship space?
Honestly, the bookkeeping side of it for me, because that's not my background. Sales and marketing comes much more naturally to me. And I have friends who are designers who don't have a marketing background, and that stuff freaks them out. And I'm like, I could do that all day. But the bookkeeping side of it, I found really overwhelming. When you're an interior designer, you're actually like a reseller, just like you are a retailer. So we collect sales tax. You have to file every month. Once you get into having employees and payroll, that like sent me down a spiral of, I had no idea I was doing it myself until that point. And then once I did that and I made a few mistakes with the state of Connecticut and got penalized nicely for making mistakes, I was like, okay, I'm done. I have to hire somebody because I don't know what I'm doing. I really
Yeah.
don't. Like, I don't know the rules. Just around payroll in the state of Connecticut, it is so incredibly complicated because they take out taxes for 4 different subjects, of which I don't understand. And I'd get on the phone with them, and the woman's like, "Okay, let me walk you through this." And I'm like, "You might as well be talking in a different language because I don't understand." And so, for me, that was one of the first eye-opening reasons for me to say, I need to hire someone. It is worthwhile me spending money to get a professional who understands how to do this and who is going to do this right for me, because I'm out of my league and I need to stay in my lane. And my lane is sales, marketing, interior design. And I need to let others help me in their lanes and their expertise.
Yeah, and you're like every entrepreneur out there. I mean, every entrepreneur is very visionary. I mean, they see things from up here. What they don't like to do is get into the weeds on those books, and that's for all of us. For me, and I'm pretty good at it, to be honest with you, but I don't like doing it. I'd rather
Right.
just I've got my bookkeepers that do it. I've got my accountants who handle it, and then I can look at the cash flows at the end of the month and see
Right.
where we're at, and
Yep.
that's just perfect.
I'm with you. I can understand the reporting, but I know that there were things that I just wasn't doing right because that's not my specialty. And so it became so worth the investment. And especially now, especially since COVID, you can go on to Upwork and find people to help you very reasonably, and their ability to do work for you before you really find someone permanent for your business, their ability to do work for you. And even just, I hired someone just to like clean up my books for me and just get it organized right because I wasn't doing it properly. And that was such a good investment. And she was so affordable and so helpful. I was like, oh, this is just great. It's just, you have to know what your strengths are. And it's any team that you build, any business you build, know what your strengths are. And if you don't have to be perfect and strong in everything. Hire the people that are your weaknesses, and that will make your business that much stronger.
Oh, for sure. How do you see yourself? I'm just curious on your trajectory, because some people find their purpose and their passion at different times in their life, right? Some people, like you found it, that I don't want to say later in life, because I feel like we have a lot of years ahead of us, but let's say midway through
On the
life.
back half of life, though, let's be
Yeah,
honest. It was the
yeah,
back half.
maybe the back
Yep.
half.
It was the
We'll
back 9
see.
for sure.
Exactly. But when you look back, do you wish you would have found it earlier, or do you look at your experiences and everything, your trajectory, and go, you know what, it worked out just like it was supposed to?
I always look at it like that. That is, it happened at the time that it did because that's when it was supposed to happen. And I was in the right frame of mind and I was receptive to the opportunity. I think if it had happened 5 years earlier, I would have gone back and just gotten another corporate job. And I think it's because of the timing, the age that my daughter was. COVID definitely played a role in it as well. I think that made my mindset be where it was. And also just me realizing how physically burnt and stressed and emotionally drained and just unhappy I was. And I didn't realize it until I was able to take a step back. And I think that happened over the last few years of my job, not like the last 5. So that builds up over time. And I do believe everything happens for a reason. And things happen at the time that they happen for a reason as well. And I don't think I would have been able to overcome my fears had it been 5 years earlier.
Yeah, I kind of feel like people need to experience what they don't want to really appreciate and understand what they do. And, some people find it at all different times. It depends on where you're at in your life and how you're working and living and how you are showing up in the world, basically. But at the same time, if you don't really see the bad side, and I don't even want to say the bad side, the side that's not aligned with your purpose, it's really hard to appreciate it when you do find it and you really say, oh my God, this feels so much better to me.
Yeah. Right. And you're right. And like you said, it's how does it feel? And you have to be you have to be at the right time to be able to let go and receive the messages as they're coming to you. And I look at my design business like that. I look at my book. I look at the things I'm working on right now for my future. And those would have never been even in my brain, my wavelength. I would have never been open to any of those things 5 years ago. I wouldn't have. It just wouldn't have ever been on my radar. And so I think as you grow and you evolve and you start to go down different paths of getting more aligned with your purpose and feeling more grateful and feeling more intentional with the choices you're making in your life, you also, as a result of that, end up being more open to possibilities and more open and more aware of what the universe is putting in front of you. And then you end up making slightly different decisions than you would have before.
Well, the other thing that I always think about is when people leave something they've been in for a long time, they almost feel like they're losing a piece of their identity, of who they were. It's almost like the death of the old you as you transition into this new you. Did you go through that?
It's the death of everything. It's like, I mean, when you've worked at a company for 11 years, you might as well be getting divorced because, I mean, I had friends on my team who worked for me that I'd known for 11 years. I mean, we'd been through marriages, divorces, births, like you name it, miscarriages, everything, deaths of parents. And when you lose that as part of your everyday, it is really hard. And one of the things that I learned in that journey, which I think is important for people, is to recognize that people are in your life for a time and for a reason. And they say that, right? They're a time, reason, a season. And I had to let go of some people that I thought were really such a huge part of my life because they don't fit into my new life and they don't fit into the person that I've evolved. And that's okay. And I spent a couple of years being really angry and resentful and like, how are they not interested in me anymore? And it's like, no, that's not it. It's that you guys were connected at that time because that's what worked for both of your lives. And you have evolved and you've moved on to something else. And now what you need in your life are different things and different people, and they will come if you're receptive to it. But you lose your identity, you lose your friends, you lose so many things. And there are people that you think, one of the things when you get fired, if anyone's been fired, you will understand this. When you get fired, it is eye-opening who reaches out, and then even more eye-opening who doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's the people that don't are the most eye-opening part about it. The people who do is lovely and heartwarming, and I was shocked. But it's the people who don't that hit the ego and hit the heart, and that's what you have to emotionally learn how to get through.
A lot of people might be listening to this, and we might be building onto the fear. They go, I don't want the death. I don't want to, I don't want to go through the transition. I don't want to do this. But what would you tell that person, though, about what's on the other side? Because I know that if I'm sitting here, I'm hearing this, I'm going, well, I don't not like what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not aligned with my purpose, but this sounds horrible. I'm going to go through this whole process. I'm going to be losing friends. I'm going to be losing people that I love, and all for what? To transition into something that I feel like is purpose. But the other side of the equation, when you got there, yes, you lost a lot of those people.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? How did that feel? And what did you gain?
Yeah, it's short-term pain. It's short-term pain. And I say this about divorce and relationships and breakups too. It's short-term pain. If you're doing it for the right reason, it's short-term pain for the long-term gain. And I would say for myself, what I have found from my journey, which is what I try to share with people, is it's not about finding a happier life. Yes, I have a much happier life, no doubt, but chasing happiness ebbs and flows. What I've been able to find by following my passion and my purpose is a sense of inner peace that is so much greater than happiness. And it's a calm that it's hard to explain, but it lives like so deep within you. When you wake up every morning, there is just a calm. There's a calm hum to my life now that I never imagined possible. And that is so worth anyone who didn't stick in my life after that divorce and after that breakup with work, because if they were meant to stay in my life, they would have. And some people did, and some people didn't. And they're not part of your future greatness. And that's okay. That's okay. You walk away from them with ease and grace and be grateful for the gift that they gave you at the time they gave you. And then turn around with the mindset and be like, wow, okay, so what is now? What's next? Who's coming next? And how is that going to make me feel like a better person? And if you're living your life with your purpose and being grateful and feeling like you have a reason to be here and to give back and you're excited and passionate, nothing's better. Honestly, nothing's better.
I bet you don't miss that pantsuit either.
No, not at all. My daughter was like, what do you mean you don't own a pantsuit? I'm like, haven't worn one of those in a long time.
Yeah,
She's like, you don't know a suit? I'm like, no suits.
no
Nope.
suit.
No suits. Not at all. Nope.
No, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you're living life on your terms, and again, that pain. I love what you said there about being short lived. It's
It
like,
is.
because we all go through those, and we all are going to have those pains. And I know so many people that I talk to who are going through, like you said, either a divorce, maybe they're transitioning out of a job. And I always tell them the same thing. It's like, you're going to be okay. It's like,
Right.
embrace it, really go deep, do some work, figure yourself out. But you're going to come out of this and you're going to be so much happier. You're going to be so much better. You're going to be so much more fulfilled in life. But it's hard to see
It is.
immediately.
It is.
It's
But that's
hard to
also why I
see.
read about writing and the power of writing. I'm a huge proponent of journaling. That's why journaling is so important, because if you start to journal about it every day, a month later, you can go back and be like, oh, wow, I felt terrible then. Oh, my goodness. But look, it's been a month and I already feel better. I'm already not crying all the time. I mean, even if it's as simple as that, like, I already feel like I'm on a better path. I feel better about myself. I'm eating better, sleeping better, everything. So that's why journaling is so great, because you can go back and look at it and really see progress in yourself internally very, very quickly.
Yeah. Now, it seems to me too that so many people are sitting there in those areas of life where, they're just not happy, but they don't understand that there could be just a little bit of pain to have a lot of glory on the other side of the decision to leave, the decision to align with their purpose. But that, again, it kind of comes back to that fear too. You're just afraid. You're afraid of that pain. You're afraid of that transition. You're afraid of that death. But fear is it's a liar.
Right.
It's not telling you the truth,
Right.
right? And the
Exactly.
truth happens when you make those decisions and you finally are able to get that alignment and move forward in something that you really want to be doing in life.
And then when you can look back and be like, oh my goodness, I overcame the fear. I conquered the fear. I didn't let the fear rule my life. Then that is also so motivating and so empowering to feel like you have that level of self-confidence. Because I think everyone wants to feel that they can overcome their fears. And so
Yeah.
you might have to baby step it and have small wins to then be able to reflect back and be like, okay, I did that, so I can do this now too.
Yeah. And again, you got the blessing of the firing, right? But there's those people that are out there that go, Rahman, I can't do this. I've got a wife. I've got a kid. I've got kids. I've got a girl in college. I've got a boy in college. We've all got these responsibilities in life that put these handcuffs on us.
Right.
You had the blessing of somebody saying, no, this is it. And then you
Right.
figured it out. The person, though, that I always feel for is that person sitting there and they can't figure out how to break free.
Right.
And those fears just pile on and pile on and pile on. But that's why I always tell them, you had the great idea of the hobby. Find that hobby.
Right.
Start that. And
Yeah.
then maybe make that into the side hustle. And then
Correct.
maybe make that side hustle make you have to quit that job.
Right. Exactly. Because once you've built that up, you'll get to a point where that side hustle now all of a sudden has a visible path to being a real business. And that's a
Yes.
great way to start a business, quite honestly, and it also changes your mindset about your current business, because then you're not looking at your business as like the weight that's holding you down. It's like, oh no, the business is bankrolling the future business. Look at it that way. So your current job is bankrolling your future business. And so you're working on your side hustle so that your current job can bankroll that future job so it can build up until you can then quit. And then your mindset changes about the future job, and your current job has a means to an end to it. It's not just the anchor that's holding you back either.
I love what you said there. I actually had heard that about a month ago, that exact same
You
thing
did.
where your current job is bankrolling your
Yeah.
future business or your
It's true.
current business. And I
Yeah.
love that because it's such a good way to change how you think about that job, how you think about getting up and taking on that role when you're
Yes.
actually using it to get what you want or where
What
you
you
want to
want.
go.
Right. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. You're just changing the way you look at it. It's like, oh, that paycheck. It's not that, oh, I have to have that because of this. No, no, no. That's going to be the future. That's the investment that I need to then go do something else.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I see a lot of people who get up and just say, who do find that purpose and they go, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go do this. And I always tell them that's not that's not an overly good idea either. I mean, you've got to be able to make sure that you've got the
You have to have
finances
some
set up.
financial
Yeah.
responsibility in there too. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
you had the blessing of going in and you had day one where you had that women's group on Facebook where you had immediate people coming in and starting to feed you, right?
Right. Yes.
That's not always the case.
No.
It takes time to build a business. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, a lot of energy. You got to make sure that you've got the financial awareness that sometimes it might be winter and you're going to be
Right. And you
needing
don't
that
have any
saving.
business. Right. And you
Yeah.
have to, before you start it, you have to be willing to say, how much am I personally willing to invest in this business from myself? And how much money do I have to personally invest in that business for myself? And that might be, paying yourself, and so it's when you go into it, you have to decide how much money do I have to invest in myself? Because if I'm not willing to invest in my business, who else will? But figuring out what that dollar amount is, and then if that's not enough or can't get you far enough down the road, then figuring out how you're going to get supplemental income along the way. But you have to be willing to put some skin in the game, I feel, as an entrepreneur. You have to be willing to put some skin in the game, and you have to be willing to do. And if you're not willing to start and do, it's never just going to get handed to you on a silver platter. Every entrepreneur has done and tried and had things not work out exactly as they thought and pivoted and made different courses. And every entrepreneur has had good months and bad months and, really busy and really quiet. Like, that's just the nature of being an entrepreneur. But you have to be willing to invest in yourself for the long game, and then make sure you have the right resources to help you, with your books and with your game plan and with your marketing and your target audience. But all of that can happen over time. You can evolve that. You don't have to go all in like I did all at once. You can do it as a side hustle over time to let it evolve. And that will create an excitement and a passion for you that, will trump what's happening at work. It just will. It will overshadow the negativity because you'll feel like you're on a path to greatness for the future.
You seem like an all-in kind of person to me, by the way. I know I can
Hence
see
why
you
my
in
book
that
is called
position.
Feed In. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I am. But not everybody is, and that's okay. You have to do what's right for you. Yeah. So part of it is showing people how to baby step to get there.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jeanne, I want to make sure that people can connect with you. Absolutely love your story. Love the idea of that book that you got that I want people to be able to get a hold of and get into their libraries. Where should they go to find you?
Yeah, so my book is called 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-in Life. It's available on Amazon, hardcover, paperback. I recorded an audio version, so you can get it anywhere. You can get an audio version book. You can listen to me for 5.5 hours if you want. And there's also an ebook for it, so you can get it there. And I'm super active on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is at JerMar Designs. It's JerMar_designs. So I encourage people to follow me, DM me, reach out. If you read the book, definitely write a review, send me a note. Would love to hear from people. And that's what keeps this all going, is knowing that I've impacted people's lives and that as a community, we're able to help each other. So thank you for buying it and reading it.
Yeah, for sure. And I follow you this morning because I love to hear stories of other entrepreneurs and other people living purpose-driven lives. So thank you for that. And I've got just one more question. I ask this at the end of every podcast. And that's if you could go back in time and sit down with your younger self.
Yes.
And give yourself one piece of your most valuable advice, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, and it's funny that you asked this question because I actually talk about this a lot when I speak in speaking engagements. I would go back and I would tell myself not to be so focused on societal norms of what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it and the time frame in which you're supposed to do things. Because I think that really held me back. It was sort of, okay, I am now supposed to go to college, and now I'm done with college, and now I'm supposed to find a job, and now I'm supposed to find someone to marry, and I'm supposed to have a child, and and I'm supposed to buy a house, and I'm supposed to go to graduate school. And I stuck to that path. And it really wasn't until I was 50 and lost my job that I wasn't so concerned about the timeline, because I was like, well, what if I got to lose at this point? But if I had had that same mentality back when I was 20 or 21 or getting out of college, if I had the mentality of the sky's the limit, why not now? Then I think I would have chosen different paths. If you really just are why not now? What are we waiting for? Why not now? Don't be so concerned with what everyone says you should do at the time that you should do it. And instead find the things that you're passionate about. And if you follow those, you will end up in the right place at the right time.
Well, you are speaking my love language. Jeanne, I appreciate you coming on today. This has been a wonderful conversation. You got so much to give to the world, and really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Rodman, for having me. It was great fun to talk to you, and good luck with your podcast. It's a great one.
Thank you.